Hello Internet, my name is Bobo. Right now, I'm in the middle of breaking into Warner Bros. I am determined to find the Batgirl movie. Well, that didn't work. Well, now that I got a lot of free time on my hands, I might as well spend it reading free Batman webcomics. Huh. Who's this? I like Batman now! Wayne Family Adventures is what corrupted me into checking out more Batman stuff. And specifically, media that isn't just about Batman. I loved his extended cast, and while I know this isn't accurate to anything, it's just fun versions of these characters, I do like when they appear and stuff. So when a game all about these characters was set to come out, I didn't care because I hadn't read this yet. But when I finally played it, Gotham Knights really appealed to me. I got it on sale for $20 and thought it was pretty good. I'm a fan of the Spider-Man PS4 game and wanted something like it, and this certainly filled that void. There were just a lot of small bits of fan service that I really liked in this game, like this photo of Jason and Roy. I laughed really hard when I saw it. Why does Roy look like Andy Samberg? While playing the game, I mostly stuck with Barbra since she's really fun, but while reading Wayne Family, Cassandra Cain became my favorite Batgirl and I ended up making this costume that looks kinda like hers. Now that I'm a fan of both, I ended up getting these two in plastic form. So let's take a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Gotham Knights Batgirl and gold label Cassandra Cain. Let's start with Gotham Knights Batgirl. She was my main in that game and this was really the only option available. I watched some reviews and heard it was alright, so I decided to give it a shot as my first figure from McFarlane. This is one of the most disappointing figures I ever got and it really soured my opinion on them. The figure itself though, looks fine. It captures the look of Barbra from the game decently well. I really like the purple and yellow suit, so I'm glad to have it in plastic form. This version though is a bit different. The detail on the figure is a lot more simplified with most of the yellow highlights removed. I honestly don't mind it too much as the yellow outlines could be a bit much, but I also think it's a bit too oversimplified. But even if I don't mind it, it still removes a lot of detail from the suit. It also has this rough texture to it to try and make it look more realistic, except it doesn't really work since it's extremely inconsistent. Due to the rubber overlay McFarlane likes doing, the way it looks on the legs is completely different from how it looks on the torso. So at that point, why bother? It just looks worse, but I get what they were going for. Now let's talk about the problems. The legs are too long. I don't know if it's the design or not, but the proportions make it really hard to pose her in any way that doesn't look weird. Her legs specifically make her a pain to stand. Her feet are really small and need to balance this really lanky body so she just falls over constantly. She can't do any kneeling or anything too elaborate, and not even due to a lack of articulation. Her head can rotate, but not much because of the hair. Her arms rotate, move out, arm rotation, double jointed elbows, hands can move up and down. If you rotate the peg, you can get some side to side. Waist can rotate. Legs kick forward decently far. She can do the full splits, double jointed legs. Feet can rotate. There is some forward and back, ankle rocker, and toe articulation. See? It's not really that bad. It's actually pretty good. It's just that due to the way the figure is sculpted, it can't really do anything. It's too thin in a lot of places, making poses look really awkward as well as just falling over a lot. Her cape is also just bad. It's extremely flat and looks really lifeless. Though I guess it doesn't get in the way of anything, which is a positive. So even though her articulation is good, you just don't really want to use it. She looks best in a neutral stance, which is a problem for an action figure. She can't even really do much action. She comes with a few accessories like this tonfa, but she can't really hold it that well. She comes with a stand that can't even plug in all the way. Everything that should help her just doesn't really work that great. She also comes with a card, but I'm not a big fan of these. Though her head is pretty good. McFarlane Toys isn't the best with heads, but this one is okay. It's not perfect, but it's one of the better ones. Her eyes are tilted to the side, which is annoying, but it's not the biggest problem with the figure. The last thing I want to mention is her face. It's kind of small compared to her hair, making it look a lot bigger than it probably should. But I kind of like this. It's fun. Overall, it's just not a good figure. It's hard to pose, it doesn't really look good in poses, and just inconsistent with its design. I say it's a 5 out of 10. Unless you really want a Gotham Knights Batgirl, you're not missing much. And now for the figure that restored my faith in McFarlane Toys, we have the Cassandra Cain Batgirl. This figure is really good, and I am once again interested in DC Multiverse. This would have been a much better starting point, as now I see the appeal with McFarlane style figures. On the box, it says this figure is based on Batgirl's, and that's technically not wrong. This is mostly the suit from that comic, but the belt is different, so not really the worst in accuracy. This just feels more like a generic Cassandra Cain Batgirl with the Batgirl's name thrown on it, since that's the most recent series with this suit. So, fair enough. I can live with it not being accurate to that comic. But then why have a piece of unrelated art on the back? Why not just label it from this comic? Okay, aside from box nitpicks, the figure itself is actually really good. It's simple, but this is what the costume mostly looks like. It's black, with a bat logo, and a belt. The wrong belt, but I'll live. Like with Gotham Knights Batgirl, her legs are way too long, but unlike Gotham Knights, it doesn't really cause too many problems. Her feet aren't nearly as small, so stability isn't an issue, and the sculpt just looks better in poses. The best way I can describe it is Cass feels more like an action figure, while Barbara was designed to stand in one specific way, maybe hold her tonfa, and that's it. Now on the topic of this being an action figure, for articulation the head can look up a bit, look down, it can rotate, there is a lot of tilt, arm can rotate, move out, the arm can also shift around a lot, double jointed elbow, hand can rotate up and down, you can turn it for side to side, the upper and bottom part of the torso are on ball joints, allowing for a lot of back, and a little bit of forward. Legs kick forward pretty good. Really good out. Double jointed legs. Really good forward and back at the ankle pivot, and a toe joint. It's really good, and unlike Barbra, she actually looks good in poses. It's not perfect, but it's certainly better. The way I describe the articulation is that it wants to be a Mafex figure, but bigger. I admire that, but it's just the small things that don't make it work as well. But all that can be forgiven because wired cape. As you've been seeing throughout the video, the cape has a wire and can be bent and posed in a lot of ways. It's not perfect, but it adds a lot to the figure and makes it a lot more fun to pose. I do think it's a bit big and can be a pain to lay it normally, but I can get over it. It adds a lot more fun than it takes away. And speaking of adding stuff, she also has a few accessories. She has a grappling hook, which is alright, and a batarang. I do think the batarang is a bit weird. It feels very thick and feels more like a foam bat logo versus an actual batarang. She also doesn't really hold it that well, which also kinda sucks. She also comes with a stand, same as Barbra, which works a lot better for Kaz. She can actually use it, and it does help for some poses. Lastly, she comes with a card, but like I said, not a big fan. It's just more stuff I need to put somewhere. Now I didn't mention this before because I don't have the other figures, but this is reuse of two others. It's the top half of the Three Jokers Batgirl with the bottom half of the Rebirth Batgirl. I don't really think that's a bad choice, just a weird one. It works, but it probably contributes to the wonky proportions since it's two separate figures meshed together. Just thought I'd mention it since it's kinda funny to me, even if reuse doesn't bother me most of the time. Overall though, this is a solid figure. Not my favorite, but it shows me McFarlane toys can be pretty good. And I'm interested in checking out some of their Batmans. I probably won't, but I'm more interested than I was before. Maybe if they do spoiler, I'll care. But this figure gets an 8 out of 10 from me. If you like Cassandra Cain, you'll probably like this. Well, that was a fun time. If I can go from not liking a certain toy company to liking them, anything's possible. Maybe I shouldn't give up on finding Batgirl. I should look again. Ah, come on, it's gotta be here somewhere.